What's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Build. In this episode, we're gonna pull out the engine, the transmission, the front suspension, the wheels and tires, the brakes and all. We're pulling it out of this car. Well, at least, I plan to. That's the plan. I can't promise anything. What if it doesn't get done? But I'm gonna try. That's what we're doing today. Stay tuned. I've got pretty high hopes that the engine is going to come out today. I've got Eric on his way to come help me, and when Eric comes here, things just get done. He's my secret weapon for getting this build done before summer. So that's going to be awesome. Before we get started though, a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is proudly brought to you by Squarespace. Now you guys know I have a background in computer software engineering, design, user experience design. I was an overall whiz kid at all things web. And anytime somebody would ask me, Chris, what do I do to get a website for my company, my dog, my whatever, I would always say, go to Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest all-in-one inclusive platform where you can just go type in your domain, you get hosting, you get beautifully designed templates right there to work with. You pick from one that you think fits the mood for whatever site you're building, and then you're just simply kind of dragging and dropping, changing text. If you know how to send an email, then you can work with Squarespace. They have what's called a WYSIWYG tool. I used to have to design these things for a living. What you see is what you get. So you type it out on the screen, it shows up, it looks beautiful. Boom, then it goes out on the web and it looks good on mobile. It's optimized for all sorts of different browsers, which is a total pain when I used to have to do this stuff for instance, a project where you go to load it up on a mobile phone won't look right on a laptop. They're built for one or the other. Not with Squarespace. You get cross-platform compatibility. So you're talking about Mac, Windows, PC, mobile, all the good stuff. Anyways, so it's an amazing resource. It's really good, and it takes the hassle out of building a website. And it's very, very quick. It's very easy. My mom's business uses Squarespace. I finally was like, hey mom, I'm too busy to build your website anymore. Let's get you set up on Squarespace. She's been on there for multiple years. So this is a product that I definitely 100% stand behind. I've used before, and I can't say enough great stuff about them. Everybody's using them. Artists, musicians, restaurants, store owners. Like I said, my mom, my friend, my personal friend, my really close friend. Okay, a guy I met one time. I had a drink with him. I made him stand next to me while I had a drink, or I stood next to him and had a drink. Anyways, my buddy Keanu Reeves even has a Squarespace website. So check it out, guys. There's a link in the description. You can get 10% off right now if you hit the link in the description, or go to squarespace.com/B is for Build. Huge thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. It's a pleasure to have you on board because it is a product that I 100% stand behind. Okay, now it's time to get to work. From where we left off in the last episode, I'm hoping there's not too many more things hanging on to this engine and transmission combo. So here's what I can think of off the top of my head. We got all the wiring that goes to the engine that runs inside into the kind of like main body. What the hell? That scared the crap out of me. What is with people around here? Anyways, wiring that goes into the main body loom, that's going to need to be unplugged. And normally cars have like kind of a junction. I'm hoping that's what that is right there. We'll be able to unplug the two of them. Then we got heater hoses, heater core hoses. That's the hot water that's going to come from the engine, wrap around inside your dash to get you a heater, to warm yourself up in the wintertime. So that could be some of that stuff. And then there's brake lines for sure that have to stay basically on the body of the car. So that means that we're going to have to go ahead and pop the wheels off and disconnect the brake lines, and the brakes are going to lose fluid. Like everything in this car. So I'm seeing magic happen under here. Basically, weird thing goes into there, don't know what happens. Stuff goes into here, I don't know what happens. So I'm thinking it's time to take this whole thing off and see what we find underneath. All right, we got Eric here, and we are still working on figuring out wiring things. With this taken off, I figured out that that's brake boostery stuff over there. Not sure what that is at all. And then coming over here, there's a fuse box, a nice little sealed fuse box over here. So what we figured out is the wires run out of that fuse box in there, through there, along here, and then they come out, and every single one that comes out goes into a clip of some sort or another. So what we believe is when we take this screw off here, this whole unit, this whole black thing needs to come off and stay with the car while the engine goes down. So Eric and I are going to spend the next few minutes unplugging every single thing from this main black harness. So things like here, whatever's underneath here, all of the injector backs need to come off on these sides, and then all of this little miscellaneous stuff coming through the engine here is all a bunch of different sensors. So once we get all that stuff out, this thing should be able to kind of lift up and become its own little unit away from the engine. Quick change of plans. Eric and I were working on this and we thought, you know what, that's a lot of stuff to undo. So I thought, I'll double check with Brett, who's done this before. And he said, no, indeed, we're gonna need to go into this area, and underneath here, there's some sort of a connection. So all of those wires basically go down into some different clips, probably somewhere underneath here, and then we'll take all that out, and that'll kind of like go set on top of the engine, and then the engine can go down. So that's how BMW installs the engine. They'll put the engine in, and then they'll run those wires over there. So we're gonna do the opposite of that. Carry on. We got the wiring out. It was actually really simple once we kind of located that box, thanks to Brett giving us a tip on here. And then like there's some stuff over there that you disconnect from here, vice versa. And then this box comes out and sets on top, and that will come down with the engine, and that will follow the engine around. So the next thing that Eric and I are gonna do is get underneath the car. But before we get underneath the car, we're going to lunch. Lunch break. Eric got a new truck. It is Yeehaw AF. It's nice, it's big. What do you have, that Cummins 6.7 in here?
It's a 5.9.
5.9. Yeah, we're not quite at 6.7 level yet. Did they even make a 6.7 or is it a 6.1?
It's a 6.7.
6.7. I know my Cummins is. You guys know this. Still running those tread right tires. Everybody asks me about them all the time. They work great. Eric and I have both been running them for a long time now, and we've had no problems at all.
They've gone through everything, at least everything that I've put them through.
Yeah. And he uses his truck for truck things, unlike me, which use my truck for car things. Lunch was good. My parents have called me, they're in town, and they need tools. So we got 3 hours to try and drop the engine out of the car. Fingers crossed.
We can do it.
Eric thinks we can do it. I'm not really sure if we can, but we'll try our best. Oh, this is interesting. Sorry, that car hit that car, and then they're like, let's go to dinner. All right, back in the shop, and I think it's time to get underneath. We got brake lines, we got transmission mounts, some transmission wiring, and the drivetrain. Take all those things off, and we should be ready to start loosening things up. So Eric and I are both gonna bite the bullet here and jump into this pile of nastiness and start unbolting things. Okay, I've got the wheels and tires off. Eric's got most of the work done underneath there. Magically, he's been working way faster than me, but that's because I've been providing him with tools until now. But here's what we found. One of the transmission mounts was snapped, completely snapped off. So when he brought out the lower mount, this is the part that bolts up to the transmission. Toast. Reminding us again that I paid too much money for this car. Okay, so for brakes, there's a couple sensors down here. Gotta go ahead and unclip the sensors, and then this guy goes into there, and that's the brake line that goes into the car, and you gotta detach that. So then the brakes are undone. After you do that, then there's like a sensor on the top of the strut tower. It's weird explaining how to do a lot of things that no one at home is gonna do, but you know, for the few of you guys that are removing your M5 engine. Anywho, and then you pop the 3 bolts off the top of the strut, and then the struts drop down. And then Eric did a bunch of stuff underneath, which was basically loosening up the guibo, which is not a derogatory term for an Italian man. It's a piece that mates your drivetrain to your transmission, your drive shaft. And took off the tranny mount and some other things. And now we're ready to go ahead and get the hoist, assemble the hoist right about here and connect it to our engine to take the weight. And we have the jack, the jack is back there holding the weight of the transmission. All right, we've got the hoist in place and we've got our load leveler on here. And if you'll remember yesterday, we uncovered this guy right here. So you got a big old, whatever those are called. And then you got one of these in the back. And so we're looking good. Now the next step is we're gonna go ahead and lift this up to take the tension off of the, take the weight off the engine. What the fuck was that? Oh, Eric's dropping things. Pardon my French. Anyways, we're gonna take the tension off of the engine, and you're gonna see the engine kind of come up a little bit, and then Eric's gonna jump under there and take off the bolts from the lower subframe.
Did I just get voluntold?
Yeah. Eric's the brave one. He's gonna take the bolts out of the subframe. I'm just kidding. One of us will do that, and then that basically lets everything hang. Now the engine is bolted to the subframe, so the subframe can't fall on you. But other than the fact that it's attached to the engine and the engine's attached to that thing, there's nothing stopping it from just falling out the butt. So that's what we're gonna try and do right now. And it will not work as smoothly as I just said, because there's gonna be problems. Definitely heater hoses in the back are still connected. We're gonna have to loosen this thing up and figure that out. But this is the first step. Eric was the brave one today, and he's got all 6 bolts out from the subframe, so we think it's gonna loosen up, and now it's time to start letting it go. We can feel that on the left side it's looking loose, but on the right we're not really seeing much progress. So here goes nothing. This is the moment where we realize that we did not unbolt the steering shaft. So there's a shaft that goes from the back of the steering wheel down to the steering rack, and we forgot to unbolt it. So the whole engine was starting to come down, and we realized, oh no, we didn't undo that. So then we lifted, we heaved it back up. So hopefully that's the last thing that was giving us issues. It's not gonna be, but yeah. So we're gonna jump under there and undo that steering shaft. I have no faith. This takes longer than this. We're getting really close. You can't even see the engine from top level. It's getting very close to coming free. We had a couple more wires that we need to do, and I wanted to show you guys some of this. This just shows the level of jankiness going on with this car. So down here, when I got in here, I saw 2 things. So one is their tri-colored zip tie method down here holding this plug on. So when we go ahead and take it off, you'll see that it was crushed. So there's a couple of those happening on this car, and they're in places that are really strange. We keep running into them, which is probably a sign, not a sign that they, did maintenance work on every single thing in this car. It's probably a sign that they've dropped the engine out of this car before. So this might not be the original engine that came with the car, or maybe they've removed the engine once or twice before. Then another sign that Eric and I both saw was that these banjo bolts, this is where your steering rod goes into. That's what we just removed. So the steering comes in here. You have these banjo bolts right here, and they're not even tight. Like that would never hold fluid. How this car wasn't just spewing power steering fluid, I have no idea. But it probably has none in it at all, to be honest with you. Well, we've never ran it, so we wouldn't have heard it. We wouldn't have heard the pump squealing over the exhaust. So what that probably was, that right there, is probably when they took the exhaust manifolds off. They probably had nice exhaust manifolds on this. They wanted to salvage them. So then they took this off to get to it, and then they didn't put it back in as well as they should have. Same with, we're seeing some motor mount bolts that are pretty loose looking. Same deal there. So that's probably what that was. And just so you guys know, the way that happens, a lot of people are like, oh, it's why you don't buy stuff at Copart. That has nothing to do with Copart. Copart basically acts as a broker between the insurance companies getting rid of their cars. And what happens is, so this guy crashes his car, the insurance company's like, we'll give you 15,000 bucks for the car or whatever, that's all it's worth. I don't know how that really works. And the guy's like, bullshit, it's worth like 35,000 or something. They come to a disagreement, and then what do? Before the insurance company takes the car, they go take all their expensive pieces off the car because the insurance didn't pay them enough for it. Eric did that. That's how I met Eric. He took exhaust pieces off of his BRZ before it went to Copart. I bought it fair and square, bought a car that didn't have exhaust, went on Craigslist to buy the exhaust, met Eric that way. You guys that are new to the channel might not know that story, but my first BRZ, I was searching on Craigslist for parts, bought them from Eric. Then I was like, wait, you wrecked a car that didn't have this part, I blah, 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 and then I bought it from him and we became friends ever since then. So anyways, we got those freed up, unplugged, ready to go. We're gonna continue pulling this thing down. You can see it's already plenty far out, but let's continue to get it out. Okay, we had a couple more holdups. We forgot to take off the fuel line. So that right there is your fuel line. We took that off. There are two, one vacuum line and one coolant line from the rear of the engine that we took off, and some other stuff back there. I think we really now, oh, the transmission wiring, there's some over there. I think we now are truly ready to drop this baby out. Dude, it's out. The shop is full of like M5 yard saleage, but we got it out. So, man, that's what our transmission looks like. That's that beauty that doesn't shift very well, but does other things great. We had pretty much no serious complications. We had no serious complications. The only issue was we forgot a power steering hose, that one right there, which quickly uninstalled itself. And that was it, really. So we didn't break anything, though, and that's the good thing. That's always the worry. Thanks, huge thanks to Eric for helping me out. No way I would have got it done tonight without that. So I know that when I was doing a 3D model and talking about how all this is going to work, it was kind of confusing for people. But basically what holds the front of your car together is this subframe here. And that's 1, 2, 3 mounting positions right there. From there, your suspension goes out to the bottom, and those go up into your strut tower, which is right there. And then it bolts, those things bolt into your frame rail, which is right here. So what I was talking about with the Z is basically we're going to make our frame rails match identically with the BMW frame rails, and then we're going to build our own strut towers up there too. Eric and I even talked, these are made out of aluminum. Actually, interesting fact, the whole frame is aluminum. We had no idea. We could cut those off and reuse them, but we're not gonna. We're gonna build our own. So then imagine you got your frame rails like that. Then you build your own strut towers to match up with where these were. Then you bolt all this stuff back in, and you have the front end of a car once again. And then the hard part is, you know, okay, now we gotta develop mounts for our power steering reservoir, our fluid reservoir, our fuel lines, our steering rack. All these other things start to fall into place after that. But this was a monumental stepping stone or whatever to progress. What the hell am I trying to say? This is a really, really huge step in what we're trying to do. Getting it out of here and everything like that. I'm overjoyed. Can't believe we got it out. Well, I can believe we got it out, but damn. Super back heavy car right now. If you could take this and tip it over on the jack right now, it's so rear heavy. Pretty crazy. All right, guys, that's where I'm gonna call it on this one. I gotta hustle and go help my parents. They had a work truck break down in my neighborhood, in my neck of the woods, so I'm gonna go help them. It's a small thing, I'll be able to fix it. But that reminds me, my parents' business, work truck, they built their website on Squarespace. Huge thanks to our sponsor, Squarespace. Guys, go check it out. You can get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase if you go to squarespace.com/BSforBuild. There's a link in the description, or feel free to type it in yourself. Head over there. If you wanna build yourself a website, you won't regret it. Other than that, if you wanna get one of these babies, they're sold out in a few sizes, but they might not be sold out in your size. So head over to bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop. No, wait, the new website, it's all a shop. So yes, check that out. And if you want to find us in more places, we're BSforBuild on Instagram. Find us on there. I will not see you guys tomorrow. That's my day off, guys. Go enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you again on Monday. See you then. Peace!